There's a lot of great players in our game right now when you're talking about the point guard's position. Russell Westbrook,
Steph, CP, Kyrie.
None of them dudes wanted no smoke with Derrick Rose and Derrick Rose era.
Exactly.
I'm telling you right now, none of them dudes wanted no smoke with D Rose during that time.
Derrick Rose is easily one of the most captivating what-if scenarios we've ever had in sports history. His peak during the early 2010s, especially his 2011 MVP season, had created dialogue around the idea that the Chicago Bulls could ultimately be home to the two greatest NBA players of all time. Derrick Rose really was on that track. He really was that guy.
You're that guy.
And Derrick Rose showed why he's still a superhero.
Because I'm not going to lie, like that year, bro, he was untouchable.
Both the NBA itself and a generation of basketball fans were clamoring at the idea that we could have a Derrick Rose and LeBron James rivalry for the next decade. This was before we had LeBron versus Steph, before we had LeBron versus KD, before LeBron versus Jokic. This would have been the marquee rivalry of the 2010s. However, none of that was able to happen because of one of the most head-scratching coaching decisions we've seen in recent memory. Tom Thibodeau had Derrick Rose in the game with about 80 seconds left while the Bulls were up 12 against the 76ers in the first round of the 2012 playoffs, and little did Rose know it as he went up to make this simple layup, his entire career would change forever. And there are those that have made the case that Derrick Rose was doomed to injury from the start. The way he played, the way he finished at the rim. You can see in these videos how he continuously keeps landing on one leg, putting all the force onto that knee, and this is strong evidence that that could have been a huge factor.
Drink your water.
But what if that had never happened? What if Rose had been subbed out early and got on to have a healthy career? What would the NBA landscape look like today? I decided to run that simulation 100 times using an AI to paint us a picture for how we might look at the league and some of our favorite teams or players today. And the results honestly shatter our reality. If D Rose never gets hurt, everything today is completely different. These simulation results really aren't all that crazy. This could have very well happened, and here's why. Now, in the real world, Derrick Rose tore his ACL during game 1 of the first round of these 2012 playoffs against the 76ers. In this alternate timeline, we'll start off with having him stay healthy. Now, what many people don't remember was this was a lockout shortened season where the Bulls finished 50-16. And while Derrick Rose's numbers didn't quite jump out the page at you as they did back in 2011 when he won his MVP, he averaged near 22 points, 8 assists, and 3.5 rebounds a game. Now, in this simulation, it has the Bulls going on and sweeping these 76ers here in the first round and advancing to face the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinal. Chicago beats Boston in 6 due to the combination of Rose's unstoppable offensive game while the defense was held down by Joakim Noah. Now this is where things get interesting. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bulls would go on to meet LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and the Miami Heat for the second consecutive year. This time with a healthy Rose and a little bit more experience and a better team, but most importantly, home court advantage. The Bulls would be able to push Miami to the brink and win in 7 games. Derrick Rose and the Bulls would then go head-to-head with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. And while this would be a tough back-and-forth series, Rose's veteran leadership and playmaking would just be too much for the Oklahoma City to overcome, and it would bring the first championship to Chicago since Michael Jordan. Rose is then named the Finals MVP. This is exactly why I found these simulation results so interesting. These events could have most definitely happened, and the results would have completely changed the way we view our athletes today. This would mean that LeBron James had started his tenure in Miami losing 2 finals in a row. The implications so far are absolutely groundbreaking for what we know the NBA as today. And as we move on to the 2012-2013 season, Derrick Rose would continue to ride that momentum after winning his championship and go on to win his second MVP, as the Bulls would finish as the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, once again dealing them the very valuable home court advantage. In these playoffs, Rose would go up against both New York teams in the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks and overcome them with little effort. This would once again be a battle of the two powerhouses, a battle between Chicago and Miami. And in this scenario, Chicago would go on to win in 6 games as the three-headed monster of LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh could just not compete with the depth of Chicago. And in the NBA Finals, the Bulls would go on to face the San Antonio Spurs. With the momentum and the experience that they've gained over these past few years, the Bulls will go on to win their second consecutive championship in 7 games. And Rose once again would take home the Finals MVP, which would establish him as a back-to-back Finals MVP winner, which would solidify him as a generational superstar. Almost every one of my channel's viewers is not subscribed to the channel. Do me a huge favor and hit that subscription button. We're trying to get monetized. My dog and I. And as we entered the 2013-2014 season, the rivalry between Derrick Rose and LeBron James would be the dominant storyline of the NBA. The Bulls, still powered by Rose, Noah, and a deep supporting cast, would remain the top team in the East, but any team with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh are going to be a threat for the title. This year, Rose doesn't win MVP as Kevin Durant ends up having one of his most dominant seasons of his career. And once again, the Bulls and the Heat would meet in the Eastern Conference Finals for the third straight year in a row. But this time, things would go a little bit differently, as the Heat would narrowly edge out Chicago, with LeBron and Dwayne Wade advancing back to the NBA Finals. And in this simulation, Miami goes on to lose to the Spurs in the Finals, once again denying LeBron James a chance to win a championship. So far in this timeline, this universe, LeBron James has 0 championships, and we're entering the 2014-2015 season. In our real timeline, by now LeBron James has 2 championships. It would seem in this alternate timeline, Derrick Rose would be taking the exact same path that LeBron James did in ours. As we enter the 2014-2015 season, LeBron James' decision to return to Cleveland continued to shake up the Eastern Conference, which would open up another opportunity for Rose and the Bulls to reclaim their throne, as the new-look Cavs would still be looking to establish their chemistry, to still establish their own dominance. This year, Rose would go on to lead Chicago to the best record in the East, while in the West, Steph Curry would emerge as the MVP, and once again, LeBron James and Derrick Rose would face each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. To no one's surprise, in another intense series where Chicago would face the Cavs, the Bulls would win in 6 games, which would mean we would be seeing Derrick Rose and Steph Curry facing off in the NBA Finals. And in this scenario, once again, Rose and the Bulls win their 3rd title, beating the Warriors in 7. Let's just drink your water. At this point, Derrick Rose has 3 championships and 3 Finals MVPs. Now, this wouldn't quite catapult him into all-time great status, but he would be entering the ranks of the all-time greatest point guards at this point in his career. Already, we've seen Steph Curry lose a championship to Derrick Rose, which means he would only have 3 right now, but I'm not really sure Curry's legacy hangs on the balance of just 1 ring. Steph Curry could still only have 3 rings and still be considered one of the greatest of all time in his position. But as we enter the 2015-2016 season, Derrick Rose would not only have 3 championships, he would have 2 MVP awards. This year, however, was not meant to be for the Bulls, as this would come down to a unanimous MVP season for Curry and one of the greatest comebacks in sports history, with the Cavs coming back 3-1 in the finals. It seems this simulation felt that was such a beautiful story, it should stay here. And I can't say I disagree. As we entered the 2016-2017 season, we know the story here. Steph Curry and the Warriors had Kevin Durant, and the rest is history. The next 2 years, nobody else is winning except the Warriors. And as we enter the 2019-2020 season, and just as we thought Rose might have a new avenue to the finals as LeBron went out west, the rise of Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks would be a major obstacle for Rose and the Bulls. And while the Bulls would reach the Eastern Conference Finals, they would not be able to get over those Bucks. And as we entered the final years of his career into the 2021, 2022, 2023 seasons, Rose would transition into more of a veteran role, playing fewer minutes but still providing high-level play. He would take on more of a mentor role for younger players, similar to Chris Paul in his later years. Rose would go on to retire after the 2023-2024 season and spent his entire career with the Chicago Bulls. He'd finish his career as a 3-time MVP, a 3-time NBA champion, with 3 Finals MVPs to boot. Rose would officially go down as one of the top 3 to 5 point guards of all time. I think most of us can agree that this timeline, this sequence of events, isn't that far out of the realm of possibilities. The Bulls having home court advantage in both 2012 and 2013 could have been what catapulted them past the Miami Heat. But then again, maybe it just would have been the Bulls instead of the Celtics that ended up bringing out this version of LeBron. And it's also very possible that Derrick Rose and those Bulls in 2015 could have beaten that Warriors team. They genuinely struggled to get by the Cavaliers, who didn't even have Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love, which means if Derrick Rose really had never gotten hurt, LeBron James would ultimately be nowhere near the GOAT conversation. We'd only be talking about Kobe and Michael Jordan when it came to talking about the all-time all-around best. Which isn't to say players like Kareem or Magic or Larry Bird aren't in that conversation, but that's a video for another day. And really the only other person who would have been greatly impacted by D Rose not getting injured was Steph Curry. While he would undoubtedly still be the greatest shooter of all time, I'm not sure we'd have him in that top 1-2 point guard conversation that we do right now. Him winning 2 championships without Kevin Durant is really a big part of why people see him so highly now. If you remove that 2015 championship, it really takes away a lot of Steph Curry's legacy. It really is interesting to think about how so much could change with really really only 2 players being impacted. Derrick Rose's 3 championships came from both LeBron James and Steph Curry's legacy. He had to borrow from them. And last but not least, his case for the Hall of Fame. In all 100 simulations, Derrick Rose is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And in my opinion, still should be. Derrick Rose really should have had one of the best careers we've seen in the NBA. He should have been remembered as the top 3 to 5 point guards in NBA history. He should sit alongside of other greats like Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, John Stockton in discussions as the greatest ever at their position. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. What are your thoughts? Were you a fan of Derrick Rose? Were you lucky enough to see him play in his prime? And what do you think about this simulation? Do you think this is absolute blasphemy? Was there no chance the Bulls could actually get past the Heat twice? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, think about watching either of these videos that's on the screen. As always, hit that sub button and turn on notifications. Go out there and do something great.